Welcome to Red Zone DFS. We are here to present the waste management preview. We have our, expert in the room, live from the Boise airport. Jim.
Yeah, we're doing a little guerrilla podcasting today. I'm at the digital library in the Boise airport. We'll give you a little view of the pod set up here, the digital library. It's what happens. We're only on the road for a night since we're going to Cabo on Friday, and we had to find somewhere to get the pod in because this is going to be a great tournament. It should end right before the Super Bowl starts. If it doesn't go to a playoff like it did the last few years. But yeah, pretty pumped about this. We got a lot of guys who are playing over in the Middle East back stateside. I think we're in for a pretty good week. We got some interesting names out there. We're Wednesday evening here, so we got a pretty good idea of ownership, which is kind of nice. Because there are some guys that are incredibly chalky that are going to be a pretty easy fade for me this week. Then do you have any early leans of guys you like?
That helps. Well, just one quick little note. Your boy, the Noodle, pulled out last minute. So Webb deactivated himself, will not be in the field this week. So
come on,
Webb. I know you're really upset about that. But no, man. I mean, looking at it, like, I think this is like the most fun tournament, right? Like, can you just give a quick little breakdown, just like 2 minute on the course and like what we should be looking for targeting?
So we're in Phoenix. We're back in the desert. We're going to be looking at pretty fast greens this week. It's a fairly easy golf course. A lot of opportunity for eagles. You don't have to be a bomber in order to win this tournament. So the shorter hitters can certainly get it done here and have in the past. Normally, this is the closest tournament that you get to a Happy Gilmore-esque environment. I mean, it's just a massive fucking party. Because of the COVID restrictions, they're gonna limit the attendance to the event. So the iconic 16th hole where they build the stands around is not going to be as raucous and rowdy as it normally is. And that might help. It might help a couple of these like guys who, because look, let's face it, some of these guys out on tour, they play for money, but when it's like this rowdy environment, some guys hate it, right?
Yeah, so, we want to avoid the weenies, mental mid. Well, I don't know if I can say that. You know what I'm saying.
You know what we're talking about. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a pretty cool tournament. Like I said, you get a lot of big names coming back. You get a lot of guys playing for the first time this year. To get ready for Riviera next week, which is always a massive tournament, right? So,
yep.
I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting tournament. There's a lot of guys still not here. Like Vinnie just mentioned, the old Noodle pulled out. A few other guys, Maverick McNeely, and a few other guys have withdrawn already. I don't think that DraftKings has updated Webb being out yet, so just be careful of that. If you have him in your lineups, get him out. There's some other guys like Maverick McNeely and a few other guys that it's actually noted that they're out on there. So I mean, we're just going to start at the top. We've got Rahm at a very, very, very expensive 11-6, but everyone likes to play that narrative that this is a home game for him. He went to ASU. He's played this course maybe more than anybody in the field. And I mean, what else can you say? I mean, he's number one across the board in so many categories, but the one that really matters this week is, as always, is DraftKings points, number one. There's some guys in the top, 15 in pricing that are in the like mid 60s for DraftKings scoring. So that's a problem, right? So that's something that you really want to pay attention to this week on a course you can score a lot of birdies and a lot of eagles at. A lot of these guys that are normally not great, as we get down the board a little bit further, you can start to see that like they might be able to barely squeak in and make the cut, and they'll outscore some guys who finish quite a bit further ahead of them. Even if you have a lineup that has like 5 or 6 this week, if you get a guy that missed the cut but made a ton of birdies and like maybe a couple of eagles, but made a shitload of bogeys too, you still might be okay. He might outscore some of these other guys that just don't score very well on tour. So, Rahm at 11-6, I mean, I think it's an interesting build. I think there's going to be some people that are going to try and jam in like Rom and JT, or like Rom and like one of these guys in the 10s. Here we go. Oh,
ma'am, who do you like above 10K? I guess with that, Jim, above 10K, who are you looking for?
So I like Hovland a lot. He took a week off after playing in the Middle East. Now he's back stateside. I am a big fan. I think Rom is great. I'm going to be fading Cantlay. He's dealing with some sort of back issue. He talked about it at the end of the round that it's really kind of plaguing him. So he's a guy that, golf is one of those things where even if he's going to be a little bit owned, I'm going to probably fade him. So Hovland and Rom are probably my two favorites above 10,000. Going down into the 9s. Last week was a great weekend for Spieth. Just couldn't putt. His irons were on fire. His around the green game was not good, but he just couldn't putt, and which is kind of weird because he's normally a really good putter. So I think that, he's probably a guy I'm going to skip. Xander is going to be probably pretty highly owned because he's way underpriced. Last year at this tournament, he was priced up in the high 10s, low 11s because he was playing better. Hasn't been playing so hot coming back from the Middle East. He's a guy that, honestly, I would like to play, but I might get away from him just due to ownership. We'll take a look at that a little bit later, though. Brooks is a guy who hasn't played a lot lately, but at 9,400, give me some Brooks. I mean, he's a guy that I absolutely love. And for whatever reason, a lot of people want to play Sam Burns this week. And at 9,300, I would rather just pay $100 more for Brooks Koepka. He's not a guy. The other guy that I like that I'm probably going to be eating the chalk on is Scotty Sheffler. He's an irons machine. I think he can play really, really well here, but he is going to go fairly highly owned. Tony Fenow is a guy I'm probably going to be fading. He has not looked very good. He's one of those guys in the top 10 in pricing here that is 64th in DraftKings scoring over the last 50 rounds. That is not good. Strokes gained putting. Talk about somebody who's having a hard time with putting. Now this is going to be faster greens. 107th strokes gained putting. So we know that about Tony. We know he's not a good putter. I mean, look, Hideki won, but Hideki's irons can get white hot. I don't think that Tony is a guy that I'm going to be in on, but I will be in on Bubba. Played fantastic in the Middle East. Was going to be in that playoff before Harold Varner III just drained that massive eagle putt to win the tournament, which is great for him. But those are the guys in the 9s. Scotty Sheffler I'll eat the chalk on, and then Bubba I like at 9,000.
So you like Sheffler and Bubba both better than Burns?
Yeah, I'll have zero. I'm safe to say I'll have 0% Burns and probably no Berger. He's popping pretty well in the stats, and a lot of people that only pay attention to that will play a lot of Berger. He's a guy, again, he's 25th in DraftKings scoring, and Scheffler's 12th. So when it's close in price, I'll use those stats more as like kind of a tiebreaker. But yeah, Berger is just kind of a pass for me. Cool. So let's see, going down. So the cat's kind of out of the bag. You probably heard Pat talk about it. I saw this stat floating around on Twitter earlier this week. Louis, 8,800, way too cheap for a high-class player. And he's got some sort of stupid record on his first tournament of the year. I went back and looked at it. Pat mentioned it. I didn't really believe it. I went back and looked, and he is nails on the last few years on his first tournament of the year. Like top 10s in every tournament.
All right.
This is a nice warm atmosphere. Like I said, it's a little bit of an easier course to kind of negotiate. And I mean, it's just one of those things where I like Louis. I think this course fits him really well. So I'm going to be in on him. Obviously we got the Noodle who's out. I think Seamus Power, going back to him, he's one of those guys where he is actually so far over the last 50 rounds, 4th in DK scoring, makes a massive amount of birdies. Had a tough Sunday and kind of second 9 this past weekend. I had money on him to win, as well as Tom Hoagie. I thought Seamus was just going to kind of knock it out of the park. He was my one and done pick for the Pat Mayo one and done last week. So I was hoping for better out of him. Still cashed about $270K in the one and done, but yeah, he's a guy that I'm going to go back to this week. Really like how his form is, and the stats rate out pretty well. In addition to that,
I mean, he still finished top 10, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But where he was priced last week, because of the weak field at Pebble, he didn't really pay off his price so much. He had a really bad Sunday, and a bad back 9 in his 3rd round as well. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I'll just go back to him at that price. So no noodle. Russell Henley is going to be the fade for me that everybody, and you'll see it when we go to the ownership, everyone is wanting to play this guy. And I'm not really sure why. It's a bit of an interesting, like, conundrum to me that, like, yeah, he's a good price. Yeah, he fits this course pretty well. But, like, I don't know. It at a 20 to 25%, we'll take a look at it here in a minute. It's just an easy fade for me, right?
Yeah.
Vinny, is there anybody here? Because I'm interested to just from, like, obviously, you know, you don't follow DK golf as much as I do, but just, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. You could just go pick five or six random guys and do better than me, and you do often.
Yeah.
What are you kind of looking at? Because, like, this is the area where I don't think a lot of people are going to play these guys in, like, the low 8s to high 7s. So I'm curious to hear who you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 guys that I have in my player pool, just from, you know, like you said, the Neanderthal research that I do, is Adam Scott. I definitely like. I mean, I feel like he's been playing pretty well. Like, 4 of his last 5 tournaments he's played, he's finished top 50. You know, someone in that price range, I think you could do a lot worse. And again, I don't know about ownership and what you're thinking there, but if everyone's going to be playing, you know, Russell Henley, like, I think that's easy.
I don't think Adam Scott's going to be very highly owned, so I think you're good there.
And then I'm going back to our man, the Subway Hoagie. You know, like, he looked awesome, dude. It seems like he is an all or nothing kind of guy, right? Like, first cut, second cut, 4th. Like, that's okay. Like, I'm willing to play it. And, you know, he just looked awesome. He was calm, cool, collected last week. Like, it was fun watching him come down the stretch and just handle his business, you know? And I think a lot of people talked about it too, right? Like, the pressure's off of him now, you know?
So it's funny in the golf, like, DFS space, the unwritten rule out there is never play a guy the week after he wins, which I get the reason and the methodology behind it is because, like, his just guard is kind of let down. Maybe, I mean, he just got like a $1.4 million direct deposit yesterday, which, you know, would be something. You know, it's not like he was poor. He's making good money and playing well as of recently of the last 18 months. But I mean, a $1.4 million direct deposit is something else, right? So, you know, but I think if a guy is hot and he's playing that well, like, why not go right back to him? Especially in, like, a large field tournament, no one's going to play Tom Hoagie. And then you take the factor of the crowd really not being as big as it usually is, then you kind of won't get too distracted or anything. I mean, I think I'm going to do it this week, so I think that's something that I could get into.
Yeah, so I'll go back to him. I mean, just, again, kind of thinking hopefully the weight's off him and just let it ride. If he's playing well, like, why can't he carry it into this week, you know? So
I agree. So some other guys that people just, like, are not going to play that I'm into in this area. I mean, I think Answer is kind of my favorite guy from the whole, like, mid to high 7s range.
I play Honest Abe every week.
I mean, he's good, right? Harold Varner the third, obviously coming off that monster win. I didn't watch much of it. Obviously, he played well, or he wouldn't have won, which is, breaking analysis, I know. But I think that I would rather play Gooch or Answer, especially after that big win. That was a really big win for Harold Varner. He hadn't won, I don't know, the last time. And that's a big, big money tournament that he won over there in Saudi Arabia. They got a big purse, which is why all the guys go over there. Going down there, I mean, man, how the mighty have fallen. We got Ricky Fowler, who hasn't done much of anything lately at 7,600.
When's the last time
he's won a tournament? It's been a while, then. If you look at his stats, they're just like, he's $7,600. So that tells you kind of everything you need to know. He missed the cut at the Amex, losing almost 11 strokes to the field. Being known as a good putter, the Amex is played on 3 fairly easy golf courses. He lost 4.2 strokes gained putting. That is alarming. Miscut at the Farmers, just bad across the board. I don't know. There's no one. I don't know if a lot of people are going to be playing him. He came in third in the CJ Cup.
Why wouldn't you just play Siwoo over him?
Well, I don't know. No one's going to play Siwoo either. But I'm looking at Ricky's past performances. He had a good run in the spring last year. He was 8th at the PGA Championship and then 11th at Memorial, which are tough courses. I just don't think he can score very well anymore. And I think that in order for it to be a week for Ricky to contend, I think it has to be a little bit harder of a course that he knows well. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I kind of want to do it, but I kind of don't. So these other guys, Gary Woodland.
I don't have any Ricky. So
Gary Woodland, who's won here before, I think is starting to kind of turn it around a little bit.
You've been on him from the beginning of the season.
I just like the way that he's playing. He missed the cut at the Amex, came in 39th at the Farmers, did it with putting and his approach game, which is encouraging. He's healthy for the first time in a long time. He's just a guy that I like, and especially on a little easier golf courses, I think he can do pretty well. I really, really like Cameron Davis at 7,200, and I think it's just a flat-out misprice. There's some guys like K.H. Lee should never be priced above Cam Davis. Davis is a legitimate player. A lot of people are on the Aaron Wise train. I'm just not going to get there.
Dude, I'm going back to your guy real quick that you brought up that kind of got me on Kickstarter at the beginning of the year. I've just been riding the Pat Perez train.
Yeah, I'm going back to Patty Perez. This is he lives in Arizona. He lives in the area, loves desert golf. I'll be going back to him. The reason why people are playing Aaron Wise is over the last 50 rounds, he's third in DK scoring. So I don't know, man. Looking at that, I might just have to toss him in one just for the hell of it. After 7,000, it gets ugly, except for I don't know why he's not priced up because I think he's been playing pretty well. It's Francesco Molinari. He came in 6th at the Amex, made the cut at Farmers, but then had a horrible weekend. So he's got 2 made cuts in a row. At $7,000, this is a guy who's won the British Open a few years ago, and he's at $7,000. He's a guy I'm going to go back to after that.
All right.
I think some darts if you guys want to go after him. I'm going to Grant Higo at 6,600. The Gim Reaper is back in the field at 6,600, and I'm going to play him just because I like saying his name. And if he does well, then I can say that I had the Gim Reaper in my lineup, so that's nice.
Yeah, very cool name. Dude, the one guy I cannot seem to get right is Michael Thompson. Every time I play him, he misses the cut. Every time I don't play him, he's a top 10 finish every time.
Well, Vin, I hate to tell you that Michael Thompson misses the cut often. So
it's 2 before the last 4 tournaments.
So missed the cut at Pebble Beach, came in 11th at the farm. Like that's a wild ride. But I mean, if you look before, he's been playing pretty well, which is why he spiked in the Farmers and the Sony. But like 57th at the RSM that had maybe one of the weakest fields, miscut at the Mayakoba, or 15th at Mayakoba, 56th at Shriners, 51st at Sanderson Farms, missed the cut at the Wyndham.
But like down here, you're really just like, if you can get these guys to make the cut, that's a win. I mean,
you have to have it this week because we're back to a normal, cut after the second round. And I mean, these are just some guys that are. So let's go look at some ownership real quick. I'm going to do a quick lineup generator just to see what it throws at us as far as lineups. And then I'm going to go look at ownership projections here, and we'll start at the top and see if we can find any. So this is based off Fantasy National. So
Jim, we got real quick. We have a YouTube comment from Zach talking about Abe Answer being real sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, look,
honest Abe, baby.
We're both on Abe. I like him a lot. I think he's got good form. And we'll take a look at him right now since we're on him. Where's Answer? Not very highly owned, coming in at about 9% owned. So,
like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really attractive. ROM, now the calculations have switched, and now ROM is projected to be the highest owned at about 19%.
So would you try to throw like an Answer or someone else in that with the ROM lineup, trying to balance that out? Or you're going to throw a Luke List or something like that?
Well, I personally am not playing Luke List, but if you wanted to, you certainly could. I mean, I think a good guy to pair with ROM is like a Kevin Kisner at 1%, right? Plays like that, this is a course that Kiz can do well on. He likes the warmer. He likes that, it's Bermuda. It's not Poana. It's a grass that Kisner likes. Molinari at 5.2%. There's a lot of guys that we talked about. Another dart throw that he did well last week that I'm going back to at 6,200 is Austin Eckro. He's a new player this year. He just got his card, made the cut, but then didn't do great. Did well in Bermuda last year, missed the cut at the Farmers. He's a good golfer though, and he's a guy that I'm more than happy to throw into like a lineup. And honestly, like if you want to play like Hovland and Rom, you could throw like Eckroat and Kisner and Molinari in there, and you can probably get somebody in like the mid to high sevens, right? So, I mean, those are risky lineups, but if we're playing larger field GPPs, that's the kind of stuff that you need to do to kind of get a little bit weirder. Some of the other guys, Luke List at 15% ownership is a hard pass for me this week. Smoking's prohibited. Lame. Burger, 11%. Can't lay at 11%. Like, I'm just scared off the back thing. Sam Burns, 11 to 12%. So nothing. Ownership's actually starting to spread out. It looked a little bit more concentrated when I checked it last night. But this is based off of Fantasy Nationals projections, which have been pretty fairly accurate this year. But I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, so it's so interesting. The lineup generator throws out some interesting stuff. So, a lot of people in the low sevens, if you're going to jam ROM in there. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weeks where, you just kind of have to take a look at a few things. Appears by this ownership that ownership's not going to play a massive factor like I thought it was. I think Henley's going to be higher than this says. It says only about 15%. I think he's going to be higher than that. Mito Pereira, 7,000 at 12%. He must be getting the Pat Mayo bump because Pat talked about him on the pod today. That's an easy fade. That's an easy fade for me.
Yeah, I definitely have a few like stars and scrubs, like you were talking about. If you can jam two of those higher end guys, because there is some risky but value in there. And then I do have a few builds where I'm just like hanging in the 7s and 8s, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna play it and hope that a few of those guys pop. Someone like I don't know, a Hoagie or someone just takes off. Like last week, or
For sure.
or Louis just dominates, right? And you have a pretty basic build there. Now,
yeah, I
really and those guys aren't contending if that happens, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at sub 20%, I think you got to find a way to play Rom or JT, one of those guys, because one of those guys has the ability to just absolutely smoke this field. Yeah. And I mean, Rom hasn't been playing well lately. His approach game hasn't been good, and his around the green game has been subpar. But I mean, he's just got all the talent in the world. And with him not playing so great over the last few, he's still number one in DK scoring, right? He came third at the Farmers. He didn't play last week, so hopefully that'll kind of put him off. But a second, a 14th, and a third, and not playing your best golf, I think that's just okay. I mean, he came second in the Century Tournament of Champions after not playing in a tournament since September. He played some random bullshit Spanish Open European tournament, but those don't count. So those don't count. We don't get stats from those, so they don't count. So yeah, and I mean he's doing it. He gained a ton of strokes putting at the Century, but at the Farmers, tee to green, off the tee, around the green, killed him at the Farmers. So hopefully, it's not as penal here if you miss the greens. There is some water that you can contend with. And I don't know. I think you have to. If Rom's going to be 20% owned, I'll probably have 60% Rom across my lineups, and I'm playing about 15 lineups this week. So
cool.
That's about all I got, man. Any other closing thoughts?
I was just going to ask you, any real long shot dart bets that you're throwing out there to win outright this week?
I think that Mito Pereira, the guy that Pat was steaming up, he's at 170 to 1. And then Aaron Wise, who if he can score at 110 to 1 was the last time I checked his odds. I think those two guys are pretty good looking. There's a lot of guys, now the odds might have shifted, but there's a lot of guys in the 75, 90 to 1 range that are pretty interesting. A lot of the names that we talked about. But I think if you're going for some good bombs, Pereira and Wise are two pretty good. I think Pat Perez is a decent bomb. Last time I looked, he was at about 165 to 1 or 150 to 1, depending on the book that you can get him at. So yeah, I mean, those are probably some guys I would take a look at. There's probably better bets for your money if you want to bet those guys top 20. I think this is a tournament. I checked his number. He's 8 to 1. Kisner top 20. I put 200 on that just because, I mean, it's Kiz. 200 pays 1,600. And all he has to do is top 20. Sign me up for that. I think that's a pretty good bet this week for the top 20 master, Kevin Kisner.
Love it. That's
Sweet.
It. All right.
All right,
Have
folks.
a safe flight,
Good luck. Peace.
Hopefully. Yep.